President Donald Trump lost 60 court cases in his effort to overturn the 2020 election that he lost. And now his administration's efforts to gather votes roll from all 50 states has lost in Kentucky.
Wave News reporter Mark Stevens is explaining. Jefferson County Clerk David Yates says this decision is good for balancing power between the state and federal governments. Mark.
Yeah, County Clerk David Yates had intervened in this lawsuit as a way to fight it off. They argued that it's a federal overreach, and they view the judge's decision as a win.
The Kentucky election should be governed according to the law, not by federal overreach.
A Trump-appointed Kentucky federal judge dismissed the government's attempt to get a full unredacted copy of the state's voter database. That would include voters' birth dates, partial Social Security numbers, and driver's license numbers. The judge ruled the government did not provide two required pieces of information in its demands.
It says something about what is going on in the Department of Justice in this country today. They are 0 for 17. In these cases they have filed.
The Justice Department declined to comment. It has appealed some of its losses in other states, including in Michigan, which is in the same circuit as Kentucky. It lost its appeal there, which formed part of the basis of the Kentucky judge's ruling.
These are damn lies being put out by this administration to the people of this country that somehow or another they think that all the elections that are going on in the states, there's something criminals happening.
16 states have turned over the information to the Trump administration. It has said it needs the information to clean up voter rolls. But the federal government does not run elections. States do. Yates says this ruling protects Kentucky from any presidential demand.
It's important to protect that precedent from happening for future administrations, because this country was founded on the belief to make sure that you would not have that type of centralized control.
Late this afternoon, the government filed a notice that it will be appealing that Kentucky judge's ruling. It is also currently appealing that circuit court opinion for the full appeals court based in Cincinnati. Live at the Board of Elections office, Mark Stevens, Wave News.